What's up, fam? It's your favorite certified transformational nutrition coach, David Wazicki, and this is Man to Man, a wellness series where we chop it up with other brothers to get their insight to go from hellness to wellness. And I'm so excited today because we got a brother who is, drumroll, a diagnosed self-aware narcissist.
Yes.
Yeah, let's take a moment. We're going to dig into all of that, but he's also an author, he's a coach, he's a podcast host of Baldy and the Beast, father, husband, and he's got a dope journal that we're going to talk about too. Let's give it up for the one, the only Lee Hammock. What's up, brother?
Oh, what's going on, man? Thanks for having me on. Appreciate that. That's a solid intro.
Thank you. And I'm glad I held up to high standards. So I got all the things to ask you, but before we jump into it, we got something here called the Man to Man Blue Check certification. We ask you one question. No man has yet to give us the same answer twice, so no pressure there. Um, you ready for the question?
Yeah, you hit me.
All right, Lee. What does masculinity mean to you?
You know, that is a good question because I I don't. So when I think of masculinity, I think of just men in general, just like strength and strength, bravado, just being just a caretaker and things of that nature right there. I think masculinity is not only being physically available and like a provider in like physical nature, but also in mental and emotional. You have to be there for your people mentally and emotionally as well.
Yeah,
Like emotional masculinity exists as well in this thing. You can't just be big physical strong person and be mentally and emotionally weak. So I think masculinity is just being. I don't know. I just think of men when I think of masculinity. I don't know. It's just that's a good thing though. That's why I try to do more research on that because I feel like the definition of masculinity, even in my own self, my own perspective, has kind of altered over the last few years. When you see a lot of new stuff popping up, and you're like, this makes me feel, with, like per se, like men painting their nails or wearing dresses and things like that. It's just like, what, is this still masculinity in it, how I was raised in it? Because I'm 37 years old, and it's like times have definitely changed since
sure.
1985 to right now. So it's just things that were presented as masculine back then are different now. So I just feel like it's ever evolving as the times go.
Absolutely.
Gotta do
So
more research.
certified on that. I, you passed. And I love that you did mention being emotionally available and emotionally available to your people,
Mhm.
because I feel like that's the perfect segue to dig into your story and for you to become emotionally available. And that is something where when it comes to narcissism,
Yes.
you don't hear that. You don't, the one of the big things is lack of empathy, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that you're even saying within your definition uh, that you have to be emotionally available, what made you become emotionally available? Like, at what moment did you say, "Oh, wait a minute, maybe there is something here that I need to look into"?
So I've always kind of felt, like I said, I'm 37 years old now, but since the time, so it's about 30 years ago. So I was 7, 8, 9 years old. I can always remember just kind of feeling out of place emotionally, just feeling different. Like
Hmm.
my own emotions didn't click like everybody else's around me. I just didn't feel like I fit in. I looked the same as everybody else, just growing in the same neighborhood and stuff like that. But emotionally, I didn't feel like I fit in with everybody else. As I got older, it started transitioning into like I would see people something as simple as people holding hands, and I was like, "What makes you care about this person so much that you want to
Hmm.
hold their hand in public or put your arm around them?" I
Yeah.
just like it just I so I became just studying people and things like that. So and as
Mm.
I kept getting older, I kept growing, and I started getting into relationships of my own. They will all end the same way. I would just one day I would wake up and it's kind of like the light switch will go off in a relationship. I would just look at the person differently. I'm like, who are you? Like, what am I doing here? Could I be doing better? I would start asking myself these questions internally, and of course,
Yeah.
it's the other person's fault. Just like something about you has changed to make me feel this way.
Right.
It has to be you. It has to be something about you that has changed and transitioned to make me feel this way about you. So I would automatically start to blame the other person for how I felt about it. And all my relationships ended the same. All of them kept ending the same way. So when I got married, like I said, I got married, had my second son, and then me and my wife got into a huge argument one day, and then she kind of left. I kicked her out. This kind of muddled right there, but she did leave, and on the way out the door, she called me a narcissist. And of course
Mm,
I was like, no, you're a narcissist. This is 2017, so I didn't know what it was. I just thought narcissists
sure,
were
sure.
cocky, conceited people. You know,
Yeah.
so when she left, I got inquisitive and I looked it up online. I just typed it into Google. I'm like, why did she call me this? Of all the insults out there, this is very specific. So I
Yeah.
got on Google and I typed the word narcissist in, and then the personality disorder came up. It's like, did you mean narcissistic personality disorder? If so, here's the traits.
Yeah.
And I looked at it, I was like, dang, reading these traits, this sound like me. It fits me, because like I said,
Yeah.
I always been feeling different since I was younger. So this list of stuff right here, it made me feel like, oh, like this is why. Do I have a personality disorder? You know. So from that point forward, I ended up kind of going to therapy based off of that, and been in therapy ever since then, since 2017. Just working on being more open to experiencing emotions, being more vulnerable. Not necessarily being more emotional. Like you won't catch me crying and stuff like that a whole bunch, but I feel that I can feel that. I'm open. I'm more open to doing that and not feeling ashamed than I would have been when I was 15 years old, 25 years old, maybe even 30 years old. I just feel like therapy has helped me become more emotionally available, not only in my marriage but also just overall in my life as well. And I feel like that's what we
Wow.
got here so far.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay. So, a couple of things that you brought up, because one, I'm glad you pointed out this is a personality disorder. This
Yes.
doesn't just narcissism, and being a narcissist doesn't just mean you're arrogant and cocky, conceited, self-absorbed.
Mm-hmm.
That's just being arrogant, conceited, cocky,
Yeah.
self-absorbed. This is an actual disorder. This has traits. This is something that's in professionally in the
Yeah.
DSM-5, which is like the Bible of disorders.
Yeah.
So it's there. And it's there in a number of shades. One thing that comes up, because I within my own coaching, I focus in on mental wellness, so this is personality disorders do come up. One thing that does come up, you mentioned, since like you were young, like 7, 8,
Yeah.
9 years old, in going to therapy, has anything come up in saying either that was the moment, or like that was the, either traumatic experience, or those were the things that may have just set you on this path?
So I think is a really a culmination of stuff. So I've been in therapy for a
Mm,
while, and very recently, probably about 6 months ago, I would say, we started kind of doing inner child work to
mm,
kind of get to the bottom of what might have happened. To
yeah, yeah,
whether like it's just from trauma, or could it be a genetic component to it as well, to the traits and stuff that I have. Because my grandfather did, at the age of 27, when he had 3 kids, he did wake up on a Monday morning at 5:30 and go in the bathroom and shoot himself in the head. And
wow, wow,
my father, who was 7 or 8 years old, who was 7 or 8 years old at the time, was one of the people who found him. He had 3 kids, so they
wow,
found him. So they're probably going to school. They go, instead of going to school, get them going to brush your teeth. Your daddy in the bathroom with his head blown off. Because he. And my therapist is just like, maybe it's a genetic component for some of the traits and stuff like that, because your
mm,
grandfather, this is in the 70s, early 70s, so he could have had undiagnosed schizophrenia. So there could be a genetic component to some of the traits and things of that nature right there. But as far as the pinnacle moment of my childhood, I just don't, like I said, that's the thing right there. I think we did inner
yeah,
child work where you kind of close your eyes and kind of go back to your earliest memories and kind of break them down piece by piece. And in my earliest childhood memory is just me riding a bike around my house. I was like 7, 8, 9 years old, whatever, riding a bike around my house, smiling and happy. And I had that memory That's one of my earliest memories. I don't have any pretty much any memories before that. You know, I had sporadic
Hmm.
memories. 7, 8, 9 years old, riding a bike around the house, and I know that memory. I've had it, for 30 years. I can tell you who's there, what I'm wearing. I know all that stuff, But she's like, okay, that's a good memory. That's a good memory. And she was just like, zoom out of it, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
zoom out like a drone, is this a drone? So but somehow I did it, and I took a step back in my memory so I can see more. Like it's kind of like my memory opened
Yeah.
up a little bit, so I can see stuff that I hadn't even recognized before. But in a corner of my memory, I'm 7 or 8 years old. In the corner of my memory is the adult version of me, standing in the corner of my memory now. And she's like, "What do you see?" I was like, "Me." Like as I sit here, I'm in my memory. I'm
Yeah.
in my childhood memory. I'm standing in front of something. She was like, "Get off the bike and go talk to you. Go towards yourself." And the closer young version of me got to the adult version of me, the angrier that I got in real life. I was literally having a what I mean a physical reaction in real life. I was getting
Mm.
goosebumps and I was sweating. She's like, "You okay?" I was like, "No, I just feel myself getting angrier and angrier." And she's like, "Why?" I'm like, "I don't know." Like the closer the younger version of me gets to the grown version of me, the angrier I become. It's like I'm standing in front of something, and, whatever the older version of me is standing in front of. And she was like, it's just blackness behind the older version of me. So that's probably like childhood trauma. Like the narcissistic part of me was created to kind of guard against the childhood trauma or the
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
so the trauma block. So something happened. I
Yeah.
just don't know what it is. So
Wow.
it's kind of wild having that memory. I was like, scary. When I tell that story online, people are like, "Oh, that's the demon, that's the devil right there behind." I'm like, I was like, okay.
So- yeah.
It's darkness,
Well,
it's hell
thank
behind it. It's
yeah.
just
No, thank you for sharing that. And I mean, it's powerful, and it's powerful. I'm hearing that more and more, that there is more of this inner child work that's
yeah,
happening to be able to discover it. Because again, just from what I've researched and looked into, it usually anywhere from the age you're mentioning,
yes,
even into your, I think it's like your early 20s, like that's the time where a personality disorder, but narcissism in particular, can creep up. So, yeah, I was intrigued, and I'm intrigued as you go on this journey of what you're hopefully one day will find out. Maybe you land upon that thing or not.
yeah.
But
I mean,
it
that's the
sounds
goal,
like
though.
you're.
Yeah,
What'd you
that's the
say?
goal to get to that point right there, though. Because like you want to hope to get to that point. I think a lot of people who go to therapy, or a lot of people who avoid going to therapy, don't want to do that work because
Yeah,
that's kind of a prerequisite. You have to be willing to go back and dig deeper into that past, and you might uncover some stuff you might to make you feel weird about your current your future, I mean your present. You know, so a lot of that stuff does happen.
absolutely, absolutely. And so the second thing you brought up, and the thing you continue to bring up, is therapy. Now, there are very few that I'm aware of, narcissists that go to therapy.
Yeah,
Part one. Part two, that go to therapy and stay in therapy, and it's not performative therapy on their
yeah,
part, where they figure out a way to make this again all about them, and it's just a nice little song and dance, and it's a show, and it's, oh yeah, I went to therapy, see, nothing's wrong with me. But
yeah.
you stuck with it, you're in it, you're doing the work, you're doing the real work. But I have to ask, where did you say I am going to therapy? Because that's, it's a very small percentage of
Yeah.
folks, that are narcissists, that will actually go into therapy and do the real work.
So when I was looking it up online back when I first
Mhm.
discovered it, they was like, there's no pill or anything you can take, And I'm 32 years old at this time, so I already been doing a lot of personal development. I read a lot of books. I did a lot of Tony Robbins,
Mm.
so I was
Mm.
already
Okay.
working on myself. I was already doing
Okay.
that, but it still wasn't enough. So I just like I'm already doing that stuff. So I've been reading these books for 10 years now, and I'm still feeling like this. I've been doing this work. I've been going to these workshops. I've been doing these online courses for a long time, and I'm still feeling this way. So why not try therapy? I'm already doing the personal development. I think Tony Robbins, Eric Thomas, all Les Brown, all those
Yeah,
are
yeah, yeah,
it's personal development, but it's for it's on a grand scale, you know.
yeah,
So I just feel like therapy is personal development catered towards me. So I just feel like that's why I allow it. It's still the same type of stuff, but it's catered towards me, broken down for me. You know, Tony Robbins hasn't written a course for Lee Hammock. He's written it for
right.
people who follow Tony Robbins. You know, so I'm just like my therapist writes stuff specifically for me. You know, and I still feel like part two, what you just say about how some of them go to therapy just for themselves, and that's so I would say I still do that though, because I feel like on my journey, the therapy has to be about me. It has to be. I kind of have to be selfish in my healing right there, because I can't put that on
Yeah,
anybody else. I can't go to therapy for my wife and she still leaves. So would I still go? You know, I can't put that on her. So
right.
the commitment has to come internally from me to keep going, because like even if she still leaves, like she can come here right now, just like, hey, I'm leaving. I would be upset. It would get on my nerves, but I would still go to therapy this month. You know, I still go to therapy on the 24th. I'll still show up, because it's not about her. It's still, even if she does leave, I still got work to do, you know? So it's
Yeah,
still about me right there. I'm kind of, I would say I'm more selfish in my healing. And I feel like that's how I have to be. I can't just like, I'm going to therapy for my kids. And then my kids get on my nerves. I'm like, you know what? No, you know,
I ain't going. Yeah,
yeah, you know what?
yeah,
They ain't listening. They don't listen to me anyway. So why should I go? You know, so it has to. I feel like it has to be about me, you know, on this journey of personal development. Because I can go into therapy and talk about my relationship with my mom or my dad or whatever, you know, or with my wife or my siblings or whoever. But it's still, at the end of the day, it's my relationship with them, not theirs with me. You know, so I still have to. It's like it is selfish from that perspective. Not necessarily a bad type of selfish. Where I go in there just like,
right.
you know what, I'm here because my wife is. She just does not shut up. She just keep telling me
Yeah,
she called me a narcissist. I'm just coming here to prove her wrong. You know, that wouldn't. You know,
right.
that's absolutely performative. You know.
Yeah, and that happens a lot, and then that's why I'm thinking, even when you took the step, so now even going back further, when you took the step for self development and looking for that, like what was there a was there a rock bottom moment that just flipped the switch, or turned the light on and said, oh, wait a minute, I I'm just I'm trying to, I guess, get to this point that I don't see you. You are
Yeah.
a unicorn of sorts
Yeah.
in my
So
eyes, because go ahead.
no, so for me, you know, like the whole aspect of rock bottom that existed with
Yeah,
me, but it's more than one thing. I think when people think rock bottom, they think of one cumulative fall, like you fall and boom, it's one rock bottom. I feel like my rock
yeah,
bottom was I was at a financial low, a physical low. I was
mm,
way overweight, you know, an
mm,
educational low, the relationship intimacy low. Like there were so many rock bottoms at the same time. It's just like I thought I hit rock bottom with my finances, but the ground would fall off from underneath me, and I would hit another rock bottom with my relationship, and I hit another rock bottom. So I just feel like there was a multiple. It's kind of like the perfect storm of rock bottom at the same time. It all kind of caved in at once, you know. Like no matter which tunnel I decided to go down, it was just drop off. There was no bridges anywhere. So any direction I decided to go, like let me go this financial route. Maybe I can work on my finances. I'll be better. Rock bottom.
yeah,
You know,
mm,
let me go do personal development. Let me go listen to some Eric Thomas, get my mind right. Rock bottom there. You know, it was just it was accumulation of rock bottom. It wasn't just one. It ended up looking like one moment because do I tell the story? But it's all a
yeah,
build up over the past 30 some odd years. It was a build up to get
mm,
to this point right here. Like I was nowhere where I needed to be at. And then also when my wife left, there was nobody else in the house literally around left to blame other than me. So it was all on me at that moment. So who can I blame? You know, but my dog was running around, but what you gonna do? You know,
yeah, yeah.
like literally nobody else was there. So it's just like me. I ran out of fingers to point at other people, and all of them were just pointed at me like this. You know, it's just a weird way.
There you go. Yeah, yeah,
Weird point, but it's like
yeah.
all the fingers.
And so, I have to ask now, as I know, you have your little one present. How has the family dynamic shifted for you since the diagnosis, and um
So I can hear you.
Oh, go ahead. Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Sorry. Since
no, you were finished. Okay, I thought you were still going.
no, no,
Sorry.
no. I was gonna continue. Yeah.
No,
Sorry. I
I feel
was.
like it's the way my family dynamic it's gotten better because like I feel like my kids aren't scared of me. I think that was the biggest thing. That was, yes, you got Kingston iPad, baby. There you go. I feel like the family that because at the time when I first moved to therapy, my oldest son was 8, my other son was 6, and she wasn't born yet. So I felt
Okay.
like my oldest son, he was, super, super timid, super scary, or whatever. And then even through my therapy journey, my youngest son, he was doing the same type of stuff. He wouldn't like he'd be dancing and acting a fool in front of his mama, but he would stop when I came into the room. It's like, show your daddy. He would be all
Mm.
shy. And I was like, you know. And therapists like, yeah, they probably scared. My therapist be talking junk. I'm telling you, that's what I like my therapist. It's like they're scared of you. Why wouldn't they be? So I had to work on work on that dynamic right there to make them less afraid of me. So to make them feel like they can speak and be heard. They can talk, express their emotions, and not necessarily be put down. Not that just doesn't go for the kids; it goes for my wife as well. Because like we used to have conversations. Like very recently, last year, sometime 2022, I was like this computer. There's a computer right behind me, like a iMac, and she uses it
Mm-hmm.
for her stuff, and I had to get on it, and I was going through it, and there was like a list of recordings from it, like literally recordings of me on there talking trash. So it wasn't. you know, it wasn't a good list, a good folder to find. But it just
Sure.
revealed that I would say some horrible stuff. I could have
Mm.
deleted it. But I just left it up there. I was like, oh, if I delete it, it'd be disingenuous. You see what I'm saying? If I delete it,
Yeah.
it's just the same person would be deleting the files. The same person deleting the files would be the same person who said it. And I feel like I'm a different person now based on that. So I was just like, that's if she ever wanted to expose that type of stuff, she could, But would it make me look
Yeah.
bad, or would it make me look more authentic? Like, well, he said he was doing that, so here's the proof, you know.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
I feel like my family dynamics has gotten better because I feel like I'm more apt to receiving than just dishing out. Because I would just dish out
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
feelings, the way I felt. I'm seeking validation, whereas I wasn't open to other people voicing how they felt. So right now, I feel like the dynamic has changed up a whole lot. You know, and I just feel like that allows for a healthier environment to have kids and to have kids and have a family and whatnot. So I just feel like that's the main thing I feel like has changed over the last few years and whatnot.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Do you find yourself, I mean, you've been going to therapy for 6 years.
Yeah.
You've been doing the real work. However, are there moments where you find yourself checking yourself on the daily of like, I know this is part of that narcissistic personality versus I'm growing and I know better versus like, do you have these back and forths in your mind and in your approach daily, whether it's with your children or people in general or your wife?
I would say it's a daily battle. So even before I got diagnosed, I feel like I was in a daily battle anyway. Because I had
Mm,
went back. Facebook allows you to write like an old post, like it's like in your description, your bio on
yeah,
Facebook. I
yeah,
had made a bio post like 10, 12 years ago. It said, every day I wake up and battle my demons. Some days they win, sometimes I do. And it was just like, man, I wrote that. Who wrote that? I wrote it. So I've already,
yeah,
it's been a daily battle. So and it's still the battle extends until today, like into today, because I
mm,
feel like the main thing I've had to do over the last few years is kind of learn how to slow myself down, because I feel like when I'm moving too fast in life, I'm too fast to respond to people. As opposed, when I'm responding too fast, that's a reaction. So I'm not letting people finish their sentences. I'm jumping on what they say. I'm taking it as a personal attack because all the information hasn't been provided to me. But now is like the way it's gotten to now. It's just like I slow down, even if I don't like what they're saying. I allow them to finish what they're saying to make sure I don't misinterpret it, to make sure my response is within lines and whatnot. So I do. It's still an everyday type of thing because my wife will say something and I'll be like, "How should I check that?"
yeah.
My my son will say something a little smart, a little at mark. I was like, "What did he mean by it?" I have to literally have to slow myself down in that aspect of
Mm,
things just to make sure I'm receiving the information correctly. Like it's coming, the input and it's coming in, being processed and then going out, as opposed to it just like it's There's no buffer. There's no filter. It's just like just in and out.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. I mean, I feel like everybody should
Yeah.
process that way to begin
Yeah.
with. I think life would be a lot smoother and a lot less challenges between one another. One thing I forgot to ask, just on the family dynamic, before I'd like to move on to something else. For me, the glaring thing is, how did you get your wife to come back after
Uh,
she
so,
she left?
so she left. She left a couple of times. I think the first time she left was
Mm,
2017. Um, she left. She had left in like I think it's around. It seemed like now that I think about it, it's about the same time every year. Every time she left, it's been around the same time. It's like February, March, April.
okay,
That time period right there. So she had left in like February of 2017, but she ended up coming back like a couple weeks later, a couple days later. It wasn't even that long that she was gone. But then that year, I got into therapy in October, so it's still a little while after she came back. Because the first time therapy wasn't even involved to get her to come back; it was just me talking about it. But then
okay,
the most recent time she left was back in March of 2020. I had already been in therapy for 2.5 years. So I tell people, I was just like, I had already been in therapy for a while, and she still left. You know what I mean? So I still had to, put the work in. When she left the last time, I was just like, you know what? Dang it. I told my therapist, I had missed a couple of months of therapy because the pandemic had started and stuff like that. So
mm,
and when I finally got back into therapy, I was like, my therapist like, what's new? I was like, well, my wife left, and and my therapist immediately said, what did you do? Literally, she was like, what did you
mm,
do? I don't know.
mm,
What did I
really?
do? She said, what you
Yeah.
do? She's like, I know you. So I've been talking to you for almost 3 years. Like, I know you. She's like, when I don't talk to you for a few months, I know something's going on. So she
Mm,
had knew something was going on. So I told her, I asked her like, how do I get my wife back? Like, what do I need to say? She's like, you can't. She told me I can't. She's like, you can't get her back. I was like, oh damn. I'm like, really?
wow.
I'm like, that sucks. But she's like, let me rephrase it. She's like, you were a good talker. You were a good manipulator. You're like, you can, and y'all have kids together, so you can probably use that to get her to come back home. But I'll promise you this. I can promise you this right here. If she does come back and you really haven't put the work in, she'll just leave again, and this time she'll be gone for good. So
Mm,
I literally had to leave her alone. I didn't bomb her with messages or whatever. Yeah, I was upset. I actually started reading the Bible and going back to therapy, reading the Bible, and I did a few other things just to kind of do some inner work, And then a couple months after she had left, we got started in marriage counseling, and then a couple weeks after a couple of sessions of that, she came back home. So it was like she was gone for like 3-4 months at that time. But I think it's just the fact that I was able to leave her alone. You know what I mean? I think it was the fact
mm,
that she asked for space, and I actually gave her space, as opposed to trying to encroach upon it, in fear that she would try to replace me with somebody else while doing this time of space. The thought crossed my mind, just like, well, I'm free now. I can go do what I want to do. And of course, they thought, I was like, yep, to deal with the shame of being left, of your wife moving out.
yeah.
Like, of course, I can go out here and try to get some other women to get them to come home. I was like, that'll make me feel better. But I remember looking at myself in the mirror and like literally recording myself crying. I was just angry at myself.
Mm,
Like you see in the movie, you see people talking to themselves
yeah.
in the mirror, and in the reflection,
Yeah.
just kind of looking at them, not crying. It's just like that's how I kind of felt in that situation right there. Like this part of me was crying, but the other part of me, the narcissistic part of me, I'm like, well, that's what you get, you know. So I just made a commitment to myself right then and there that I was just going to find a healthy balance within myself, you know, and just leave her be and just focus. Literally, only thing I can do, and I tell this people every day, the only thing you can really control is yourself. So I just worked on controlling myself, how I reacted, what I needed to do, and then I just feel like that consistency over time, and me not even I didn't pressure her at all, honestly, me me over time, just being consistent with I'm back in therapy. No, I didn't tell her I was back in therapy. I just went, you know.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
and then I just the marriage counselor and stuff like that. I did suggest that, and she could have said no, you know. Actually, my therapist like when just like 2 or 3 appointments in, and she was like, when should I suggest this? Like, yeah, it's been long enough. I feel like you can send this now. And I sent it. I mailed her a letter because I knew she was at. I wrote it down, and I mailed it to her, and then she read it, and then she agreed. We had to sit down, and you know, had we had marriage counseling, and I think we did marriage counseling kind of like we're doing this right now. It was over Zoom because there's no inner office stuff, and she had moved out. So my
Okay.
plan was, and it's gonna sound manipulative. I was hoping that she would come home, we could do it together, but she didn't. She
Hmm.
stayed where she was at and did it over Zoom. So I was sitting here, I was like, okay, the marriage counseling session was literally just her talking trash. God, it was, and this is the thing. I think this is the point right here where I feel like it was kind of defining moment in my journey. Like she was talking,
Mm.
she really was talking junk, but it was like real. It wasn't. She wasn't making stuff up, you know. But I was writing stuff down to myself. I was going to attack every point that she was making. I was like, okay, she said this. I'm gonna burn her up when I get to talk. I'm gonna burn
Yeah,
her up,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But then it got to the point where she was finished, and the therapist was like, and she was just like, what do you have to say about that type of stuff? I just balled the list up. I was like, you know what, she's right. You know, I
Hmm.
can't do it. You know, I
Really?
told her like, she's 100% right. I've done that stuff, and I was gonna sit right. And I was being real. Like, I was gonna sit right here and blame her for everything that had happened to her. You know, but that's disingenuous. Like, if I blame her, she's not gonna come on. Why would she come on if I blame her? It's just like if I sit here and just like blame her for literally every single thing that has happened in the marriage, then she's just gonna stay where she is. You know, so I was just like, yeah,
Mm.
that's on me because I thought about it like it is on me, and I don't think that without my own personal therapy, I would be able to do that. You know, because the therapist, honestly, our marriage counselor didn't have any experience with personality disorders. She asked, she's like, "Are either of you in therapy right now?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I've been clinically diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder." She's like, "Oh, okay." Next, she didn't care. She didn't know that. I was like, "Oh, cool." You know,
Hmm.
no judgment. This is no judgment zone, stigma free. You know,
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's how I think just me being able to work on myself and just take in and really accept the accountability on my part. I feel like that helped out a lot. You know, because I could literally, I think she was expecting me to attack her. Because she was talking, and this was the reason why she didn't come home because she expected me to attack her verbally on this thing. Thank you. Thanks for my watch. She expected me to attack her verbally, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I took it, And I feel
I
like that
mean,
helped out. That did help out.
the way the story went, I was thinking as you were writing and you were ready to burn her up, as you said,
Oh,
it was going to come. I mean, I have some narcissists. They're not clinically diagnosed because they
yeah,
refuse to, do the work. Nor am I, I don't have that accreditation to be able to
yeah,
do it. But through things that you share on social media, which we'll get into in a moment, and things that I've read up on, and my research and my coaching and looking into mental wellness. I mean, that is a sure trait. It's like if you don't do it in that instant, and so tell me if I'm wrong here, since I'm speaking to you firsthand on it. If you didn't do it in that moment, you may create the master comeback, the ultimate comeback at another time when she's doing well and everything's all right and everything feels great. And then you're like, at that time in therapy, when you said this, guess what? And then you just let out hellfire. Like,
oh, yeah, yeah.
is that something you would have done in your past? Is
So
that typical of your past?
yeah, it would absolutely been something, but it would have been something that she was doing in the moment that would have triggered that though. She would have
I
did
see.
this,
I see.
and I would have been like, I could have brought that up in marriage counseling, but I didn't. I spared you, you know, because you
Mm,
do a lot of stuff to
mm,
get to my nerves. I just let you have your space in the marriage counseling stuff. I would have just found a way to just bring it up in a general conversation to make it not seem like it's a malicious attack, but also while simultaneously being in a malicious attack. You know,
mm.
tone
Yeah.
changes things. I could yell and scream and say something, or I could say it in a calm demeanor. It still says the same thing. With the yelling and the
Yep.
screaming, it seems like it carries a different message. It's a different message. But saying it in a calm demeanor, like, I
Absolutely.
could have said that in marriage. I should have said this in marriage counseling. Goes over
Yeah.
differently. Like, I could have said that in marriage counseling, but I didn't. I spared you.
Hmm.
You should be lucky, with a smile.
Yeah.
It's a little bit
Yeah.
more sinister. It's a little bit more sinister,
Hmm.
but some people operate like that. Some people operate more on the covert side of things. But like I said, I just kind of been, like I said, just from being in the work I put in over the last so many years, I'm just in a different spot. You know what I mean? I just feel like I'm
Yeah. I
just
mean,
in a
it
different
sounds
spot.
like it.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
I try to help other people get to the same spot. But, I get a lot of people who just think, he just talking about the narcissist stuff because he wants to be popular. Like, if y'all think that my goal was to be a famous narcissist, like, or a popular narcissist, I,
Yeah.
I don't know how, that's a super delusion of grandeur right there. Because I remember
Yeah.
making my first
Yeah.
TikTok video. I had a bigger TikTok account than my mental health one. I was like, I didn't need the mental health stuff. I was funny on my other account, you know. But it just,
Yeah.
I get a lot of people who I make uncomfortable with the stuff that I say, and they automatically think it's a lot of men who think I'm pandering to women because I talk about mental health. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, they oh, you just trying to sleep with these women because you're pandering right now. Now that's the type of stuff I get. I was like, it's amazing that y'all think I'm pandering when all I'm doing is talking about mental health. Like, you know, I've never said that only men can be narcissists. You know, I never ever said that.
Yeah.
So it's just a different
Yeah.
dynamic online.
It is. I mean, that's a whole other conversation we can talk about. But, to your point of being online and your social platforms and what you've been doing to help people, I mean, it's effectively become your mission. It's this drive that you have now where you're coaching folks
Yeah.
and you are looking for ways to help folks either recover from narcissistic abuse, or, which I would love to see more of, folks that do realize they have this personality disorder take the step that you have in terms of facing it and
Yeah.
addressing it and looking how to be better in the world. What clicked again for this next step of progression? I feel like you've had this beautiful progression over time, and now you're at this point where it's time to serve others in from what you've found, what you've dealt with, how you've lived, how you've seen what comes positively and negatively from it.
Mhm.
What was that point of saying, I need to do this, or I want to do this?
So when my like the first time my wife had left around February of like 2017, I had
Mm,
joined some groups on Facebook for diagnosed narcissists or people who thought they had narcissistic traits or whatever. It's like a self-aware narcissist Facebook group, and I joined that
mm,
group, and that group did help me out at first, you know, because of people who kind of I feel like people were going through the same type of stuff that I was going through. You know, they felt the same type of way that I was feeling. I was like, damn, I could have wrote that post right there. It sounds just like me, you know. It got to that point where I was like, man, this is a good group or whatever. But then as the group started to kind of grow and progress, more people would join the group and they would be automatically like sad, like their life was over. You know, they would join the group and just like, oh my God, I'm diagnosed with narcissistic personality. My life is over. Or they would come on a fake page or a burner account and just be like, sorry guys, to the burner account. If my boss finds out I'm a narcissist, they'll fire me. I like, what?
mm,
You know, just stuff like that.
mm.
People would post stuff like that. I was just like, it's just kind of wildness that like I felt super alone when I first, even before I got diagnosed. I felt super alone because I didn't think people had the same mindset as I did, or people didn't think the same way I did. So I started talking about it in
Yeah.
the group. I was just like, what if we started doing some videos or talking about personality disorder that can help humanize or whatever, you know? And people in the group, they're like, nobody's going to listen to that. They'll demonize you, blah blah blah, you know. So I ended up leaving those groups for a little bit, and then I started my platform. I started my little podcast, my little side podcast back in like July of 2019, and
Okay.
I started my TikTok account in May. And my wife came back in May, you know. So when she came back, I was on the way to therapy one day, and I was just like, let me start this mental health account. It's been on my heart. It's
Mm,
been on my heart to start the mental health stuff because I just felt like I felt like there's a point in time where I felt like I was alone. So I was just like, let me share this.
yeah.
And TikTok was kind of it's the easiest platform to blow up on. So I was like, let me talk about this on TikTok, you know. And I started
Yeah.
my very first TikTok just says that I'm on the way to therapy, and hey, my first name is Devon. I was like, my name is Devon, and I got a personality disorder. It's called narcissistic personality disorder. I'm on the way to therapy right now. You can go to therapy.
Mm,
You can get help. Use this platform is supposed to help more men get into therapy and feel like you're not alone. Go get help so you don't destroy yourself and destroy your family like I was doing. You know, and that was May of 2020, May 19th of 2020 when I started doing that. You know, I just posted it on TikTok and I went over to my other platform, my other account, and I came back and it was received. You know, it had mixed reviews, but I would say
sure.
overall it received on a positive note. But it was mostly women. Like even now, since I started my platform, it's always kind of been 91% women, and about
Oh, wow. Hmm.
yeah, and 10% men. On different platforms, it might vary a little bit, but it's kind of like I would say 88, 87% women. You know, overall. But that's just the way it goes. The way it goes. But I just feel like even that low number, I feel like overall, I still got 200 some thousand men that follow me, which is cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something interesting in the way of men in general narcissism or not,
Yeah.
who deal with their things, right? Who take and seek out therapy. Like we know with men in therapy,
Yeah.
it's like two rocks, right? It's
Yeah.
just like that in itself. And to add the layer of a narcissistic personality disorder, that's a whole other ball game. So firstly, I'm truly, as I hear this journey, I commend you on the work you've done, because it's truly a road less traveled two times. And then you add the layer of black men and
Oh,
melanated men who don't. They feel anxious, they feel depressed, they have this disorder, they have this or that, and it's only
yeah.
like, I think statistically, it's like not even I don't know, almost a little over a quarter of men out there even do the thing, even go to seek help. And it's more, there's more women that do it than men do.
Yeah.
So commendable for anyone who's going to do it, but any man that's listening, I or watching, I implore you to take into account your story, because I think your story is inspiring. And again, with all of these, as you look from a societal standpoint, these layers where it's, as a man, as a black man with narcissistic personality disorder, to still go and do the thing, you can go and do the thing. You are not alone. And hopefully these type of conversations let men feel like they can do it, as opposed to the men who want to berate you on social media, and the ones who, oh, you're pandering, oh, you're, yeah, because you're afraid to look in the mirror and you are afraid to do the work. And I truly feel a lot of these folks that we see on social that go down those dark roads or use those burner accounts for evil and not for good, it's because they're hiding behind that thing. They don't want to do the work, and they'll suffer in silence.
Yeah. That's why,
And
that's why I feel like it's just like so big. Like I want to reach more men, but like there's a reason why I chose a woman therapist, because just
yeah,
societally they say women are more in tune with their emotions, and I feel like that was
yep,
my biggest fault was my emotional connection. I was like, let me choose a woman, let me talk to a woman, because if like maybe this is it sound ignorant, like maybe she can teach me emotions, teach me how to feel emotions better. So that's what I was thinking. I was like, she can help me on this end of things, learn to express my emotions better and whatnot. And she has. I mean, it worked out for the best. But I just feel like if I just my mind how it was conditioned back in the day. It was like I feel like if I choose a man, it will be just too much masculine energy and too much alpha. I
yeah,
just feel like I wouldn't be able to connect. This is just my thoughts right there. But sometimes I feel like a lot of the men that I do talk to when I'm doing my coaching stuff like that think that they are narcissists, they don't want
mm.
to go see a woman therapist because they think they're above them. I was like, and it's kind of that will get you caught up right there. It's just like I don't want to talk to a woman about my emotions. They just do this. I'm like, whew, it's a little rough one right there. You know,
yeah,
that's why you got
yeah,
to be open to receiving it from whoever the best source of it. But I mean, it could be a man. Who knows?
yeah. And to that, I would hope something that's caught on again, and I hope it continues, and I really truly hope it continues with men, because it is something I'm a big fan of, and that's journaling. And you have this beautiful I Love Me self-love journal.
Oh yeah, my son.
uh
Yeah,
I mean, I love it, and I love that it is I love me, with a space for positive affirmations and being able to share. I really do hope it is something, again, where men, fine. If you don't want to be as expressive and open as you are
yeah,
on social media or out in the open,
yep,
don't suffer in silence. Write it out, let it out, and channel it on paper, pen and paper. Get those thoughts out, get them down on paper, and have that, use that as a space. If you
yeah,
don't want to go to a therapist and you have that shame, and I know shame is a powerful thing that keeps us down. I mean, I know, because I know
yeah.
that's a big
Shame
part
monster.
of this. What'd you
Yeah,
say?
I call it the shame monster. This is why I call
Shame.
it the shame monster, because it is a monstrous detractor from your life if you allow it to control
Yeah.
you. A lot of people run away from it because shame is like it's literally like a voice that talks to you that tells you they consistently tells you that you're not good enough. And when things happen that go against you in life, it just reaffirms the shame. You see what I'm saying? But what I've
Yeah.
learned in therapy is just like the shame, it exists in everybody, but it doesn't have to be real. It doesn't have to be telling them. It doesn't tell the truth. Shame is a liar. You know, they can
Mm.
just say, "Oh, you're not good enough. You're not. This is going to happen. This is going to happen." But like, it's a liar. You know, people lie, things lie. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's why I've conditioned my mind to believe that shame, it exists, it's real. You have to acknowledge it, but it doesn't necessarily tell you the truth. So I feel like that's why I've gotten to the point now, where just kind of absorbing it and just listen to it, and just like being in therapy, being nervous to say something, but saying it anyway to just kind of fight the shame. It's kind of like you pulling out your sword and fighting shame. You know, it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like a sword fight. You're like, shh, let's go. You know, you just battle it in therapy. You know, that's what we're
Yeah.
doing now. I just feel like also what you just said earlier about the journaling and stuff like that. That's absolutely true, because even my therapist said this: like, if you bottle up any emotion, if you don't learn to express your emotions, even the good ones, if you put anything in a bottle and you put a top on it, you're going to suffocate and it's going to die. And sooner or later, that bottle's going to pop, and it's the emotion. When it dies, it turns to rage, no matter what it is.
Mm.
It could have been
Mm.
happiness. It could have been stifled happiness. It could have been stifled joy or something like that. But because you weren't good enough to express it or whatever, it died and became rage. It could, the happiness you experienced in the world, you let it die inside of you, and it's rage. It turns into rage that you take out on your family. So it's just like, you have to learn a healthier find a healthier outlet for it, as opposed to yelling and screaming and beating on your chest or whatever you do to let your rage out. Find a healthier outlet.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And that, that brings me to something that I love asking all men that come on this show is what do you do on a daily basis, whether it is to address that shame or just to have yourself set up for success, from a wellness perspective, from a progress perspective. What is a typical day of wellness look like for Lee, whether it's mind, body, and or soul? Like, what's your approach to keep your mind right, keep yourself focused, keep yourself on, again, this beautiful journey that you've been on so far?
Yeah. So typically when I get up in the morning, if I'm not doing a coaching call, I try to get up, pray or do some kind of meditation or something like that. I'm always
Mm.
one of the things I got used to doing a lot was Tony Robbins has this thing called priming that he has a video on
Yes.
YouTube, like Tony Robbins priming. I used to do that all the time. We used to sit there breathing it,
Yeah.
waking up in the morning and stuff like that. Because I do the work, I do the working out and stuff like that. But the working out comes easy. But like working out doesn't always release the stress, because sometimes when you're working out, all you're thinking about is the stress.
Is the
So
stress. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
sometimes when you working out, all you thinking about is the stress. So I just feel like meditate. What I've done, because it's hard, it's very very hard for me to meditate because my thoughts are just everywhere. So what I've started doing now is getting into a meditative position and do what I call
Mm.
like free thinking. Like free thinking, it's just like I let my thoughts flow. I don't hold anything back. I just get into the meditative state. You focus on your breath and you just think all the thoughts. Like don't hold anything back, because I feel like a lot of times what people are doing is going around living this restrictive lifestyle in their heads, where you're just restricting
Mm.
a lot of thoughts. They're gonna come out sooner or later. They're gonna say you just
Yeah.
once I thank them. I'm like, it's funny that I'll be sitting there laughing at this stupid stuff I think of. Sometimes like that's so stupid, But it's out. I just feel like it's flowing. I just feel like, and I think it's some good ideas too that I'm doing. I'm like, oh, I didn't. It's a video right there. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like I get a lot of ideas from doing that type of stuff right there. So I just feel like the free thinking helps me, because I can't. It's hard for me to meditate. So I've learned how to do like that free thinking and letting that flow. And I do I do the gym and things like that. I just feel like I do a lot of that different stuff. So I listen to a good audio book here and there. Right now I'm reading Psychopath 3. So we'll see how that goes.
Mm.
I read a lot. Read a
Okay.
lot of different books.
No, I love it. I love it. I appreciate it. Lee, this has been a fantastic conversation, like I knew it would. Always could go deeper on this, but for another time. Is there anything that you have coming up? Any projects you have coming up? Anything you want to shout out and let the good people know that you
uh,
have out there or coming out there?
So right now I'm in the works of my like my own personal book called The Narcissist Code, which is I'm working on writing. I'm doing a big chunk of it tomorrow, actually.
Hmm.
I'm working on that right now. I'm expanding my own podcast to do more and have guests on and things of that nature. Here soon, I just got to get it set up. My schedule, like I said, my schedule bounces around so much. Like daughter here now,
Sure.
trying to find a healthy boundary for that. Like I said, I'm just working on right now, expanding my YouTube channel to have more interviews and go live more as well. So yeah, you can find me everywhere at Mental Illness, or you just look up Lee Hammock. Typically, it pops up off of that now.
Okay. I love it. Good people. You heard it from Lee. And men and women get that I love me self-love journal. I truly feel like it should be part of your arsenal.
Yeah,
It's helped
I
me.
love
Clearly it's helped
it.
this gentleman right here. So do the thing, get those thoughts flowing, get that release. And Lee, again, I truly appreciate you. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for being so open, so vulnerable, so honest. Um, and I truly hope at least one person gets affected in a positive way from our conversation today. So
uh,
I thank you again, Lee.
thank you for having me on.
And
Like I said, I hope this reaches the right people.
absolutely,
And touch them.
absolutely, and man to man fam, as always, don't forget to tell another brother, king, or queen about man to man so we can keep this wellness revolution going. Plus, if you like what you're hearing, like today, give us those 5 stars and leave a review. And you can always connect with me on Instagram at Wasicki, Wasicki. Till next week, peace, love, and go love yourself.